pilot spot? Do you want pilot spot? Pilot spot. What is it? That close by. 3 hours that I lost. Do you want pilot spot?
Whatever that is.
Can't stop doing it. It's gone.
Across the road. Have a get out, have a walk.
We'll stay here.
You don't want to see Laura?
Okay.
Looks nice.
copyright strikes. Are they listening to the radio? Should be fine. We can listen to the radio or listen to a podcast.
I mean, like ABC.
Yeah.
their point of view, how to critically engage with them. If we take higher education seriously,
turn right.
A sort of training for citizenship and for engagement in civic life, the education needs to include consideration of views that one will encounter in society and in political life, especially when the people who have the most knowledge about it themselves don't agree about it.
He's a professor of philosophy at Scripps College, along with two colleagues, John Shields and Stephanie Moravchik. They've written a paper, Closed Classrooms, an analysis of college syllabi on contentious issues.
I'm treated, I want to keep the focus on the detainees, how I'm treated as one thousandth of what goes on in that facility. But all the violence I've ever experienced has been from ICE agents, and it's also been from Illinois State Police, but it's been from law enforcement officials who are part of this administration. But the narrative that says that faith leaders are somehow out there being violent, it's just, it's fatuous.
That story is next week. You can follow us at ABC's or wherever you get your podcasts. A big thanks to producer Matthew Roberts and audio panel to Roy Huberman. I'm Andrew West. Join us again on the Everything's Report.
The summer of cricket just got hotter. ABC Cricket Magazine is out now. Full season preview and all the stats, profiles, scorecards and more in your essentials. In 1 kilometre, turn left. Get ABC Cricket Magazine out now with newsagents and abcmagazines.com.au. In a moment, hear the latest episode of The Breakfast Wrap. Every morning we take the very best of Radio National Breakfast with Sarah. Interviews that you may have missed if you weren't up at 5:30 in the morning. In 400 metres, turn left. We turn it into this 25-minute program, which you can hear right now on Radio National and the ABC News Network. From Wandering Country, I'm
Turn
Darren
left right
Lamb,
there.
today on The Breakfast Wrap.
This is the
Left or
first
right?
time such a strong competition between countries about
You said
hosting
left or right
COP
here?
is unprecedented.
Australia has given up its bid to host the COP31 Climate Summit, making way for it to be held in Turkey. Now, across various ABC platforms today, you'll hear just what Australia is getting out of this compromise. But today we're going to get the Turkish perspective and find out why the Turkish government wants this summit held in Istanbul. Then, back home, an inquiry into forever chemicals has delivered its final report. Independent Senator Lydia Thorpe will be here to discuss. And
The same disease happens to one in Australia, in Germany, in UK, in India. But why do the same people get different outcomes? And that inequity was embedded in the way that I took medicine.
Julie said,
urologist and leader in
Do we
global
buy
health,
more?
Dr. Sonak
Yeah.
Baskar. He's just been recognised at the Asian Australian Leadership Awards, and he'll share his
Could
story
end up being jumping.
from the Radio National Breakfast team. This breaking news that came
So,
after Radio National
12 months
Breakfast
ago,
went off
it was
air
like
this morning. The Climate Change
90%
Minister,
or below.
Chris Bowen, conceded that Adelaide isn't going to host the
back to that.
COP31 United Nations climate change meeting. Mr. Bowen says Turkey and Australia are finalising a deal which would see him take on the COP presidency, the key role to lead climate negotiations, while allowing Turkey to host the major event. As part of the deal, the Pacific would also host a climate change meeting with global leaders ahead of the main COP gathering. Now, Australia has been canvassing this deal with Pacific leaders over the last couple of days, saying it had to strike an agreement with Turkey to stop COP31 reverting to the German city of Bonn. So why is Turkey so keen to host this summit? Dr. Umit Shaheen is head of the climate policy program at the Istanbul Policy Centre. He also teaches a course on climate change and environmental politics. He came on with Sally before news broke of this agreement to explain just why there's been so much competition around the summit, why Turkey wants to host it.
Why do you think it's so difficult for Australia and Turkey to reach agreement on who should host COP31?
I really don't know, because I've been joining these COPs in the last 15 years actually, and more than 15 years, and this is the first time. So such a strong competition between countries about hosting COP is unprecedented. But I don't know, maybe it's because the COPs are becoming more prestigious lately especially
Can you
after
turn
the
on
Paris
the
Agreement.
radio?
And
Okay.
in the Bay of countries, in the Western Europe and other countries, only few countries remained actually, didn't, in terms of large countries, who didn't really host COP. Maybe that's why.
Why do you think hosting COP31 has been so important for Turkey and for President Erdogan?
Yeah, there could be several reasons. One is, of
Do you want
course,
the
about
radio on?
climate
Yeah.
policy, because Turkey's first bid to COP was in 2019, and it was before Turkey
There, I
ratified
turned it
the Paris
on.
Agreement. But that time, Turkey was really trying to enhance its climate policies, and then in the first COP bid, Turkey withdrawn for
In 1 kilometer, turn left as I turn to you to say, I like you, pal.
and Turkey ratified Paris Agreement just before COP26, and then declared its net zero target for 2053. And since then, there's a lot of new policy, including climate law, new ETS system, etc. In this sense, Turkey
In 400 meters, turn left. If anybody knows how to do a good left turn, it's you.
another reason, which is probably more important, and this is about claiming a leadership in the diplomacy, in the global diplomacy, and Turkish government is really keen to follow this. For example, next year Turkey is hosting NATO summit, also Turkey
Turn left.
mediating the crisis in Ukraine and in Syria, etc. So in this kind of a global diplomatic scene, Turkey has a role now and wants to enhance its role. Probably policy instrument, which the COPs are really an important soft policy instrument. Turkey wants
In 800 meters, turn right.
What's the situation currently with energy generation in Turkey when we're looking at things like renewables or fossil fuel generated electricity? What does it look like in Turkey at the moment?
Yeah, this is, as the civil society and academics and the climate experts in Turkey, this is our main priority actually. We try to push Turkey for a coal phase-out policy, because although fossil fuels are less important than before today, but still more than 50% of the electricity generation and almost 80% of
In 200 meters, turn right.
from fossil fuels. And the electricity generation share of coal is something like 35% in total, but still the renewables are also developing.
Turn right.
Almost 20% of the electricity generation is coming from solar and wind, and together with hydro and others, non-fossil resources are close to 50%. So I think this COP could be an important driver for pushing Turkey for more clean energy. policies, and most importantly for ambition for coal phase out or coal phase down trajectory
Rid of one caravan,
and a
another
better
one.
emissions reduction target.
How likely do you think it is that there will be a compromise between Turkey and Australia on the hosting of COP?
I really don't know.
Train is
In
coming.
Belém here in Brazil,
Or did you just come
we
from?
are really watching this like a football match. It's very
Oh, we
unlikely,
missed it.
and I still don't know. This morning, actually,
I think it might
we
have been
heard
tested.
news that
Oh, okay.
Australia is stepping down, but then it was not confirmed. And when I asked to Turkish delegation, they also say that nothing is clear yet. So we will see now. The ministers are here. Probably they are negotiating further. So we will see in a couple of days, maximum until Saturday. And I think the chances for Turkey is higher now.
No, thank you.
That interview with Dr. Umit Shaheen, head of the Climate Policy Program at the
Hello.
Istanbul Policy Centre, before
I
news
can't get
from
any
the
more,
federal government that Australia would be conceding its bid to host the COP31 UN climate change meeting, a deal being finalised allowing the climate change minister Chris on the COP presidency, while Turkey will host the major event. So the federal government isn't waiting for the results of a Pentagon review into the AUKUS Pact. It's been spruiking Australia's capacity to own, operate and maintain nuclear-powered subs at Navy bases in New South Wales and Western Australia. Yesterday, the Prime Minister announced the first contractor to supply parts for the US Virginia-class submarines. Pat Conroy is the Minister for Defence Industry and also the Minister for Pacific Island Affairs.
I need to ask you the are we there yet question. When are you
I
expecting
have
the
an
results
idea
of this
for-
review from the Pentagon about AUKUS?
Or what?
We know it's very imminent,
This is what we got there.
and so we
Let's
expect
talk
it
about
shortly, but we don't we're not in a position to announce when that is. That's a decision for the US government, but we take a lot of confidence in what President Trump said in his historic meeting with Prime Minister Albanese, that AUKUS is going ahead, full steam ahead.
Are you expecting that this AUKUS review, are you expecting it by the end of the year? Is that the kind of time frame we're in?
Well, we're not going to get drawn into speculating about the time frames. We expect it to be imminent, but we're getting on with the job.
So how significant is the announcement of this first contractor to the construction of Virginia-class submarines?
This is
Two
very
caravans.
significant. We're running two separate qualification programs where we're qualifying Australian companies to produce parts for not just our submarines but the US and UK submarines. This is a great way of building our sovereign industrial base to build our own submarines in Adelaide, and it will contribute to the 20,000 jobs that AUKUS will deliver. HI Fraser's the first company to qualify to produce 3 valves and pipe fittings for the US Virginia-class submarines, and that means more jobs for Australians, but also helps the US increase the industrial base supporting their submarines.
Minister, the opposition leader Susan Lee will give a national security speech tonight at the Menzies Institute in Melbourne. She's expected to express concern about the nation's fuel supply. Does Australia have enough oil to meet its domestic needs if there were a serious global supply chain disruption?
Well, we're working on increasing our fuel supply, both how much is held in Australia.
In 1 kilometer, turn left and howl as you turn. That'll confuse everybody.
Clear that what we inherited from the last government was unacceptable. They consistently breached the IEA 90-day standards, and they tried to satisfy it through saying that they had options in fuel on fuel in Texas. We're working to build our
In 400 meters, turn left. Show the world what a beautiful team a wolf and a human can be.
continue to work on that, but Susan Lay's got no credibility on that.
Labor's already had a term to sort out this fuel issue. Why haven't you been able to sort it out?
Well, we are working on it, and we'll continue to do so. We've increased the defence budget by $70 billion, which is the...
Turn left.
Turn left.
As I turn to you to say, I like you, pal.
Providing
Quickly look at the
capability
painting.
to the Australian Defence Force. We're also obviously working on where we can to increase fuel reserves, and that
going back
continues
to
to be a work in
Port
progress. But I'm not going to say to your listeners that it's solved, but it's a work in progress that we'll continue to work on.
And that is the Minister for Defence Industry and Pacific Island Affairs, Pat Conroy, speaking to Sally Sarah on Radio National Breakfast. Independent Senator Lydia Thorpe has been chairing a Senate Select Committee on PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, and it's just handed down its final report. It's recommending the government impose a national ban on the use of firefighting foams containing PFAS and fast-track regulatory reforms to remove PFAS from all food packaging in the country. Now, Labor senators have delivered a dissenting report warning that prescriptive policy interventions may not be supported by the evidence and have, quote, undesirable consequences. Senator Thorpe came on with Sally to discuss the recommendations and just where senators found common ground.
What's the most important thing that there was agreement on?
Well, the fact that we have a problem in this country with PFAS, which is the asbestos of the 21st century. I understand that government have agreed to going for 3M, the company that invented this toxic chemical that is destroying land and water and creating...
No, that's all right. I understand if you dropped in. I think it might be straight ahead on the road we're on.
That the government had in that dispensing report, and then the whole inquiry was supported who supported these recommendations in the report. So it just shows that we need to put more pressure on the government to implement these recommendations.
Is there any future for PFAS or any reasonable use of PFAS in Australia in the future?
Look, we understand that PFAS is used in some things like pills, in medications. So yes, there is some use for PFAS, but the public need to know where it is so that they can make an informed decision on whether they consume PFAS or not, and also what the health effects of, say, drinking PFAS in our water has on our bodies and our unborn children. So as long as there are national guidelines on PFAS, then I think people can be better informed, better than what we have now, which is not much at all.
PFAS is a very broad group of chemicals, and researchers are still looking at the potential health effects of PFAS exposure. The dissenting report said a causative relationship between the health effects and PFAS exposure has not definitively been established to date. Is a one-size-fits-all approach the right way to go?
I believe so, and we heard from scientists and experts around the world. We know that the US have thousands of claims against the 3M and DuPont for inventing this chemical because it does have significant health effects on people's bodies. So this country is so far behind, and they're using that excuse over and over again, and they're putting company profit ahead of public health in this country. So Australia needs to take it more seriously and stop using excuses. We've heard from the experts, you need to look around the world on how people address PFAS contamination, and we just need to get up to date with making sure that people in this country don't get sicker from being poisoned from these chemicals.
Lydia Thorpe there, independent senator of Victoria and chair of the Senate.
Yeah, Sam called and he just said, pull up for a bit.
On Radio National Breakfast. We're going to end with a really powerful interview today. From humble beginnings in rural India to a global voice in neurology and stroke research, Dr. Sonobhaska's story is one of great determination. His contributions to medical research and health equity were last night recognised at the Asian Australian Leadership Awards. He took home the overall winner prize. He came on this morning with Sally Sarah to discuss just what the recognition means to him.
It's incredibly humbling, and it inspires many of the Asian Australians like us Australia is a beautiful country, and sense of service is embedded in many of our members of our community. But the racism and discrimination that you have witnessed in the last couple of weeks, specifically in America, and now the spate of attacks within this country, it makes you think that there is divide. The hyphen between Asian and Australian is not a divide, it's a bridge. And that's what this recognition is about. It's a responsibility that we all owe to each other as Australians.
What's your story of journeying to Australia? How did that happen for you, son?
It's been incredibly transformative journey. I come from a very simple, humble family in India, in the eastern part of India. And I still remember I used to walk 5 kilometers to my school. And growing up, I was neurodivergent. And it was things like